Hello, hello. Good morning. I'm just going to do a quick stream here about something that I saw on my Facebook this morning. It was I'm not going to call the person out. I mean, I wouldn't do that. Like anyway, normally, certainly wouldn't do it with their name. I was thinking about copy pasting their comment, but I think that that's probably very similar. Um, because my goal here is not to antagonize. Um, so it's interesting because what we've seen here um, is a split between uh, essentially blue states and red states, right? We've seen this split for a long time. And this is just now, once again coming to the fore. And it's not, in this time, it's not about, gender studies or, I mean, I don't mean to say that the other stuff isn't, it's frivolous, right? But hey, Wiser, um, the red state blue state split this time is actually based on something very tangible and something very measurable, right? And essentially, what has happened is the media and political centers of our country, which are New York, LA, and DC. These are the deepest, bluest, most progressive, most government oriented places in our country. And we have to remind each other at this point that our country is not one big country, right? It is 50 states that are a lot more autonomous than people want to give them credit for. That was on purpose. And these states were brought together under a contract called the Constitution. And in that Constitution, we laid out, a handful of things, honestly, that the federal government was supposed to do. The rest of it was supposed to be left up to the states to handle, right? We've heard this before. The laboratories of democracy is supposed to be the states, right? And what we're seeing now is exactly that happening. And if it were any other circumstance, it would be a great thing to witness. Obviously, right now it's sad and it's terrible and it's scary. But what we have seen is we have seen some states do some things, other states do other things, and we've also seen some states that had spikes do certain things that were blue, and we've seen other states that have had spikes do other things. We've had red states that have had smaller spikes. Nobody had quite the spike that New York did, obviously, and it's a bit of an outlier. It's not an outlier, but the point is that once again, rightly or wrongly, and we're not even going to talk about the intentions here, but the blue centers, New York, LA, and DC, have once again forced their will onto the rest of the country. And what we're seeing now is the result in these free states, these people, going to the Capitol buildings with their guns. I know it's really freaky to a lot of people. I grew up in a gun town. I am not that bothered by that. I see the guys going to the Capitol in Michigan. It's like as long as they don't shoot anybody, they're allowed to do that. Same with the black guys in Georgia, carrying their rifles, walking down that road, to make a political statement. I totally support that as well. But I'm getting off the topic a little bit. What absolutely happened here is that New York, LA, and DC told the rest of the country what to do. They had the experts, they had the smarter people, and they said, "Hey, Nebraska, you're going to do what we say. We have the experts. You got to do this." And to a certain extent, we have seen most of the country comply. And at first, everybody was scared. Nobody knew what was going on, so everybody complied. But as we've seen free states emerge, Florida, Georgia, Texas, the main ones, and obviously there's others, and the free states are mostly red states. The main purple one's probably Colorado, and nobody talks about Colorado. They probably opened up just as fast as Florida and Georgia. But a friend of mine this morning said that he felt like the people in the free states, the people in Florida on the beaches, the people in Georgia who are going back to work, are quote unquote trying to tell him what to do. Because he lives in New York. He lives in New York City. He lives in New York City. Can't leave his house. His kids can't go to the park. He's stuck in his house. Kids aren't going to school. He's screwed. He's screwed for the summer. What's this guy going to do in New York City? He's a good guy. I like him. But I thought his comment was very curious. He feels like the people in the free states are trying to tell him what to do. And I got into a little back and forth with him because I thought that that was a very curious observation. Because to my perspective, it's the exact opposite. And I'll say it again. I think it's been very opposite very obvious from the very beginning that New York, LA, DC told the rest of the country what to do. I think that it's not, I get it, and it really shines a light on this elitism that this country has been dealing with. I'm not a fan of elitism, no matter where it comes from. But I'm certainly not feeling any elitism coming from Florida right now. I'm seeing cautious optimism. Not seeing any elitism coming from Georgia right now. I'm seeing a very careful, measured approach to try and bring their economy and state back before complete destruction. I'm not seeing any elitism come out of Texas, frankly. I'm seeing a state that demanded to be able to handle their affairs based on their unique situation and not to have to blindly follow New York, DC, and LA. What I'm seeing in LA is blindly following New York. Yes, New York had problems. And as much as I was against this lockdown from the very beginning, even when we announced this on March 15th, I was up in arms. I was freaking out. I was like, this is going to ruin the economy. And again, it seemed like that the whole country agreed to the 15 days, right? To flatten the curve. And as we're all saying now, and again, I know I haven't been, I guess, on the public record yet, but if you were my friend on Facebook, you would know this. I've been screaming at the top of my lungs, trying to convince everybody I know since April 1st, actually early April, at least in New York, we knew that the curve was flattened fairly early in April. We should have pivoted. There is no reason why our kids are out of school. There's no reason why camps are canceled for the summer. Do you know what's going to happen in New York City with the camps canceled for the summer? Do you understand what's going to happen there? These elite thought leaders of our media who are essential, apparently, in New York City. Our governor, who honestly I don't hate Andrew Cuomo. I'm not a partisan like that. But I do think that this adulation that he's getting is crazy. I just don't understand. It makes no sense to me. The guy killed tens of thousands of grandparents. The exact people we were supposed to try and protect. So once again, you have the media center, the political center, and the cultural center, right? New York, DC, and LA dictating what the rest of the country should do. And when they don't do it, and they say, hey, I don't want to have to close my business, middle of Nebraska isn't the same as New York, CNN gets on and wags their finger at them. And their politicians wag their finger at them. And the Hollywood celebrities make TikToks and wag their finger at them. All these people in these states that we say in New York, LA, and DC that we know better than you rube. Get back on your farm. And then they bring up this idea that the free states Again, it's literally free states is the new word for red state. And that's a much better term, in my opinion, because it is obvious that that is the case. I live in New York right now. This is not a free state. Anyway, I'll be back.